Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Mindset-Conquest Podcast, where every week I'll be joined by a special guest who will be sharing what they've experienced as the biggest failure in their life, but most importantly, the lessons that they've learned from that experience. I'll be spending time with people that I've met throughout my life's journey in business, music, and sport. And the goal is to provide listeners like yourselves with the motivation needed to get through all of life's challenges and learn not to be afraid of failure, but rather to embrace it. Please like and subscribe and enjoy this episode. I'm Chris Atwell. On today's episode, I'm joined by Carl Robb. Carl is the sales manager at JVC Precision, a manufacturing company located in Orillia, Ontario. His background is in product development, and he really enjoys learning about new technology. He also loves selling, and this is why he now spends his time finding solutions for customers based on their needs and making sure that they get the very best possible product for their investment. He lives in the village of Anten Mills, just north of Barrie, with his wife Ruth Ann, his two boys Wesley and Nathaniel, and their miniature schnauzer Oscar. His favorite hobbies are hiking in the nearby Simcoe County Forests, spending time on a boat, visiting various Ontario parks, and restoring anything with an engine. Welcome to the Mindset-Conquest Podcast. I've got a very special guest today, Carl Robb. Carl is joining us from Anten Mills, Ontario. How are you doing today, Carl?
Hey, Chris. Morning. I'm doing well, thanks.
Awesome. Well, why don't you give our listeners a chance to get to know you a little bit and tell me about yourself. Tell me who you are, where you're from, and what do you do as a profession for a living?
Yeah. So originally from Niagara Falls area, actually moved up to Barrie a little over 20 years ago. Went to Georgian College there for mechanical engineering.
Nice.
And that kind of started a journey through my career, which initially started out more technical, doing engineering design work, and then into product management and marketing, and then technical selling, and then where I am today, and more of a actual sales role. So I live in Anten Mills, Ontario. I've got two boys, my wife Ruth Ann, little dog, Miniature Schnauzer, and I just love the outdoors out here and access to all the activities that we have around this area. So, yeah.
Very nice. I'm not sure many people would know where Anten Mills is. Maybe you can help people understand geography a little bit. About 15 minutes kind of northwest of Barrie. So here to draw a line between Barrie and Wasaga Beach. We're kind of right in the middle. And just so the listeners know, Barrie is about an hour north of Toronto. So Toronto being the largest city in Canada.
Yeah.
Right on. Lots of outdoor stuff to do there. What kind of outdoor things are you into?
Yeah, so we've got the Simcoe County Forests, which is kind of like a naturalized area, preserved area, just on our doorstep, and do a lot of hiking and snowshoeing in the wintertime with the kids, and got a little community rink here in Anten Mills, so skating and downhill skiing. So that's the big things we're into right now. And summertime, it's boating and camping at provincial parks and just getting outside.
Awesome. And how do the kids like it?
Yeah, they like it here. We've been here for a little over 6 years now, and it's hard to imagine living back in a more urban setting, right? And
I bet
the kids have enjoyed it, and lots of room to stretch their legs, and lots of friends close by. So a good school, and it's a nice spot.
I heard of quite a few people that left the city, the suburban sort of areas over the pandemic. You got ahead of it and did it a few years before. But having that space, sounds like it's very special. Good for you guys.
Yeah, we love it.
That's great. And so you're in sales now. What kind of sales do you do?
Yeah, so the company I'm working for, JVC Precision, we're a little bit bigger than a small business, but not quite a corporate entity yet. So about 40 people. We're a fabrication company, so doing a lot of custom work for the mining industry up in the northern part of Ontario, so Sudbury, North Bay, Timmins area. But we also supply a lot of local manufacturers with fabricated metal parts. So anything that's involves laser cutting or CNC forming, machining, that's the type of stuff that we do. A lot of custom work. So dealing with a lot of wide variation of products and a variation of customers as well. Yeah.
So your technical background must add value to this sort of role, I would take it.
Yeah, when it comes to looking at drawings and kind of assessing whether or not something's in our wheelhouse or if we can add value to it, that certainly helps out. And then when I'm dealing locally with our team, doing estimating and helping out prepare for production, those skills certainly come in handy. And then dealing with the customers as well, right? They're all typically engineers or designers that we're dealing with on a daily basis. So that technical background has certainly helped me, get where I've gotten in my career, and it's kind of the foundation of where I am today.
And what kind of sparked the desire to move from that more engineering design sort of career to business development sales role?
Yeah, so I had gotten kind of probably 5-6 years into my career as a designer. I started doing a lot more product development work, and one of the main focuses of that role was to get out and talk to customers, talk to the people who are using your products, finding out what their pain points were, how can we improve what we're doing, getting their feedback. And, that really sparked my interest in kind of external selling and technical selling, getting to know people, what their needs are, understanding, listening, and then bringing that back to the team for feedback. And I enjoy getting to know people, kind of on a little bit more of a personal level, building relationships and really understanding, what the needs are. And that's been my focus in selling, is just building those relationships and being attentive to the customers. And the technical side is obviously important, but I really enjoy the personal side of selling as well. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, you and I had an opportunity to work closely together for a couple of years there. You were doing product management and a lot of technical design type stuff. And quite frankly, I think I mentioned this to you when we met this summer. I said, I'm so happy to see you in sales because I could tell you're a natural at it. People gravitate towards you. And I've been in many scenarios with you where I saw you and watched you, observed you actively listening to customers' needs in multiple situations and coming up with solutions. So I thought it's a natural fit for you. So good job there. Yeah. So I think the premise of this podcast. It's really about giving our listeners an opportunity to hear from others regarding failure and how they dealt with it. I want to encourage people to not be afraid of failure, but rather to embrace it. So I'm going to ask you, Carl, what is the greatest failure that you've experienced?
Yeah, so super loaded question.
Of course.
Failure, I think, the word failure too brings a lot of negativity to it. When I think about failure, it's really things not playing out as you had dreamed or hoped or even planned, maybe going a different way. And I do have a good example, that I was prepared to share. And this goes back probably 6 or so years ago. So and you'll know some of this background from our previous time that we worked together. So I had obviously gone from the technical side of my career in designing and product development. And that actually led into a new opportunity for me to develop a new business unit for the company that I was working for at the time. And it was not only a new business unit, but a brand new technology, and super exciting. And, it was a really great opportunity for me personally and for my career. So that kicked off into a product development role in the clean tech sector. So it was designing a system to essentially capture and reuse gray water in the home, and a lot of positive things resulting from that. That was a 4-year development cycle. So, there was a huge amount of liaising with industrial designers and industry professionals and government associations, and ticking all those boxes to make sure that we were successful, and revisiting the business plan, and everything looked really, really good.
Right.
And we were just about ready to launch that product, and there was a huge reorg that happened at the time in the business with the parent company, and a decision was made to essentially divest that portion of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And that was obviously a huge shock to me personally, also to the business. I think this was an exciting new time for everyone in the business, and that change was a big shock for everybody. So left a lot of things up in the air, but the way it kind of settled out was that the president, Jeff, at the time, also exited the business, but he actually took over that business unit and invited me to come with him to run it as a startup. So had a brand new baby at home, had just purchased a new house.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of things kind of happening personally, and then this shakeup. So was a pretty exciting time, but also a little bit trepidatious, right? It's like, are we really doing this? Is this really happening? And
right.
I was confident enough in the product and everything, that all the work that we had done, and that kind of seemed like a sure thing and a win.
Mm-hmm.
And after talking with my wife, we agreed, this is a good opportunity, and I took it. So left the company, went and worked for Jeff at the startup in a kind of like a minority shareholder position. Had some skin in the game, but obviously he was the main driver of that new business, and we put our noses to the grindstone, and we're beating the bushes and kind of continuing to fine tune the product all around the same time, when there were a couple of really major things that kind of just jumped out of the woodwork that were game changers. One of them was at the time there was some product standards that we had met, and then a new standard came out, and our system didn't meet that standard. And it didn't just mean a little tweak to the system, it meant a complete redesign. So we're kind of like going back to square one again, and just meant a lot of work, right? So that and some other things that happened in the industry essentially got us to a decision point to say, okay, we're either going to invest a whole bunch more R&D money and go take a second kick at it, or sell off, the assets of the business and do something else. So I think the right decision was made, and that was to sell off the assets and shut down that business. But that was a serious blow to me personally, but also put my career in jeopardy. Kind of set me on a different track, and so that was the failure.
Wow. So you spend literally half a decade building this brand new technology. You said you had a baby when you started working for the startup, but that was kind of your baby at the same time, right?
Yeah,
because
for sure.
You you're the creator of this thing, and you worked really hard over the years to develop and fine tune and build those relationships. And then a whole bunch of things that are out of your control start hitting you, right? The company reorganization, followed by the divestion of that business, and then the choices you had to make to follow that dream at the time, which have a big impact not only on you but on your family.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, okay, if I do this, there's a lot of risk involved, and the security is not necessarily there anymore. But you believed enough in it to move forward, and then all of a sudden, a new wave of unexpected, out of your control things happen that put you in a position to go, oh gosh, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough, man. So, and a lot of people go through stuff like that. That's part of being an entrepreneur. That's part of being a creative. That's part of being a risk taker and a business person, right? It's sometimes things aren't going to work out as you planned.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what did you learn out of that whole thing then? So
one of the big learnings for me was with any project, whether it's in this case a new product that we were developing, a new business, whether you're trying something out, practicing to learn a new instrument or whatever it is, there could be things that come up that are blows to you or blows to the program that you just can't see, like they come out of left field. Any good product development person knows their risks and has mitigated the risks and understands what roadblocks there could be. And in this case, there were things that were even outside of what we had identified as risk factors that impacted the program. So I think that, to your best ability, if you can identify and mitigate risks, obviously that's one thing, but when things come out of left field, you need to be decisive and act quickly and make good decisions. And that was really the learning here. While the product itself and the business didn't succeed, that was the right decision at the time. So yeah, things come up and you got to deal with them and make good decisions, make them quick and make them smart, and keep moving, right? Otherwise, people tend to get in these cycles where they might have blinders on and, without making that decision, it could have gone to a point where a whole bunch more money was invested and you don't get any further ahead, right? So yeah, that was, I think, probably the biggest learning for me is just to, constantly be evaluating what's happening. And if there are things that jump up, just take what you know and be smart about it and make decisions and act and, be firm in your decision and keep moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you were also at a point in your career, I think, in your life where you've learned a lot already, and your maturity was there to make those types of decisions. I would imagine that had you been a lot younger, fresh out of university or college, starting up a business, you'd be far more emotionally attached, and that ego piece could have led you to keep dragging it along without making the decision to sell off the business and get rid of the assets.
Yeah.
But that's something that I think people fall in that trap a lot, right? It's their baby. They don't want to let go. And at what cost, right? At what cost? Yeah. You partnered with Jeff in that business, and I know Jeff personally as well. And he put me onto a book a few years ago called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, written by Richard Rummelt. And it's it's exactly what you're talking about, where, you need to mitigate risk in advance, where if you can, in any situation, in any business, think about what potentially could get in the way of you achieving your objectives and your goals in advance, right? Critically think about it and lay it out and identify, the main reasons that could stop you from hitting your objectives. And then you can build a framework around how you would deal with it, right? So you create yourself a guiding policy. So if this particular situation happens, this is how we're going to react, and here are the coherent actions that we'll take. And I think at the time, it sounds like you had a good partner, because you guys did react quickly and made decisions and trusted those decisions, because you took that approach. So good for you guys. Yeah. I know it was a blow. But at the same time, you did the right thing from what I can see. So
thanks.
Yeah. What about resources? So, you go through this time of turmoil. Obviously, it's not easy. There's probably a lot of emotion going through that situation. You had this new house, you had a baby at home. Now you're wondering what you're going to do for your career. Which resources did you tap into to help you get through that?
Yeah. So, I definitely had a kind of a career mentor. There's been a couple of people throughout my career and at each of the businesses I've worked for, who've, I've been able to speak with, on more than just a professional level. There's the professional side of yourself, and there's the personal side. And being able to speak with someone honestly about, those types of things, about career goals and aspirations and things that are happening in your life, and, use them as a sounding board to help you make good decisions. That's something that I've always done and continue to do. So that'd probably be one of the biggest things. And then just take your time to do your research, right? Know what it is that you want to do, and take your time to research whether it's, a new company, or in this case, I was kind of changing industries a little bit, and, getting to know the ins and outs of what you're getting into, and go in with both eyes open is really important.
Awesome. Great advice. I want to ask you, who do you have in your life, or in general, that you consider to be the most influential to you? Maybe three people that would be
sure
that you think or you have identified as the most influential to Carl.
Yeah. So, actually, my wife is a huge one for me. So she's a director with the Ontario government, and leads a big team of people. And, I've watched her develop into the leader that she is today, and, seeing how she leads her team with empathy and good decision making. And she is actually probably one of my biggest helpers in terms of, navigating career choices, and, talking through those things on a practical level. So she would definitely be one of them. You mentioned Jeff before, Jeff Bailey, probably one of the best leaders that I've personally worked for, just in his ability to identify the goal for the business, help everybody to understand what that goal is and how to get there, and then coaching people along. I saw that exemplified a number of times through working with him, and that was a big learning part of my career, just watching and being a part of that business growth. And then a famous person, I got to go with Elon Musk.
Nice. Why Elon?
So obviously a very successful guy, not afraid to fail, doesn't care what people think about him, and sets a vision and just chases it. And he's tenacious. He moves fast. He's ahead of his time. A lot of reasons. Just pretty cool guy.
Nice. Well, I think you nailed it on the head. It perfectly lines up with this podcast. He's not afraid to fail, right?
Yeah.
And you got to take chances. You got to take risks. And, I'm inspired by you because you've demonstrated that you are not afraid to fail either, right? you take chances, and it's part of your personality. So good for you, man.
Yeah, thanks.
I got one more question for you. And it has to do with habits and routines. So I'm a big believer that habits are, the cornerstone of everyone's success. You've got to have good habits in life. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to know what are some of the habits that you practice and why?
So a number of years ago, I went to a negotiation course. The Karis negotiation course, actually.
The famous Karis negotiation course, yeah.
Yeah. And, there's, with that type of training, there's so much information. And I think if you can leave there with one or two good nuggets of information, you're doing well. And the big thing that stuck with me, that was being purposeful in every encounter that you have with people throughout your day. So it starts first thing in the morning, that first email you're going to send off or the first phone call that you're going to make. What are you hoping to get out of that communication, and what tone are you going to set with that discussion or communication? And just, taking some time before you press send or before you make that call, and just to kind of ground yourself in thinking, what am I hoping to get out of this conversation or this sales call or whatever it might be. And that's something that I've made a habit, and works well for me, just to set the stage and to be clear about your purpose. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. I think we often don't take the time to think about that intentionally. So I'm going to start intentionally thinking about being more purposeful in my communications. I could see that there's definitely value in that. What do you find the most impactful when you do that? So you're purposeful, what you want to get out of the conversation. Do you find it's reciprocal? You're getting what you're looking for?
Yeah, as long as you're prepared. It obviously depends on the situation and who you're talking to, but being prepared with information, or prepared for whatever questions might come your way, or reactions, kind of, if you're expecting, a little bit of pushback, how are you prepared for that? And so that when it does come, you're not shocked, right?
So be purposeful, but also anticipate what you might get out of that, because if you're purposeful, you're definitely going to get a response, and you want to be ready for that.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
And the only other good habit, I guess, is every day I just, try to get outside, and whether it's just taking the dog around the block at lunchtime or getting out for some exercise just to clear your head and get fresh air. I usually do that midday, so lunchtime is usually my go-to to get outside, but rain or shine, get outside.
Yeah. Many of us, particularly in the winter and when there's, regional lockdowns during coronavirus, tend to hole up in indoors. So remind ourselves, get outside. Good for you. That's great. Yeah. Well, Carl, I could talk to you all day. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. I want to thank you for sharing your journey with me today. I'm really inspired by your experience in your know-how. Not everybody can say that they were part of a startup. You gave it a shot, and I'm sure there's big things ahead in your life, career-wise. So keep up the good work, man. Really appreciate you spending some time with me.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
Before we go, where can our listeners connect with you online?
So I'm a little old school. So I'm I'm on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn or carl.robb, R-O-B-B, at jvcprecision.com.
Okay.
Feel free to reach out. Yeah.
Sends out the email into the metaverse. Good job.
There it is.
Beauty. Well, thank you very much for your time. You take care, okay?
Thanks a lot, Chris. Appreciate it.